Welcome, everyone, to our program on immigrant protection. We're really excited about tonight. We have a lot to learn. I'm Julie Andrzejewski, and this is Ellen Floyd. We're co-chairs of Indivisible Tacoma, but so many people are involved in making these programs happen. And we're really excited about co-hosting with PSARA this year. PSARA is Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action, and they just started a new chapter here in Pierce County. So this is Ron Stone from PSARA.
And I would just like to say welcome to you. And I'm not going to go on at length. I could, but I won't go on at length about what we do. Lots of stuff. But we do meet on the second Thursday of every month. We meet in the Tacoma Central Co-op building. There's a little lunchroom that they have next to the co-op, and that's at the corner of North Pearl Street and North 46th Street, just a few blocks before you get down on Pearl and go into the park. So it's a great spot. It's a great meeting spot. It's a great group, and we're doing good things. And I'll invite you to come.
So Dave Hackett, we want to thank Dave. He has been generous enough to support our rent for this facility every month. So you want to come and say hi?
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Ellen. And mostly thank you to you all for coming. If you think that diversity is a good thing, honoring diversity is a good thing, please raise your hand. Well, you're in the right church building then, and we're so glad to host Indivisible here. It's an honor for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I also want to thank the steering team and all the terrific leaders who make this possible, creating the program, disseminating the announcements, everything involved, the food, and cleaning up afterwards. So we have a large team that's helping with everything. Thank you.
As you know, we're in an election period. The ballots, it's only 23 days, I think 23 days, until ballots mail out. And so in those 23 days, we hope that everyone is saying to themselves, what can I do in those 23 days to make a difference? And if you have some ideas, you're probably thinking talking to friends and neighbors. And we have suggestions. We have our endorsement sheets, voters guides. And we like people to have these in their cars and also hand out 3 or 4 to a neighbor you know has a network. It's such a powerful way, 4 people hand it to 4 people, and then it goes on the fridge until the ballots come out, and then it's really powerful. Because I promise you, most people in Pierce County have no idea who these candidates are, especially for charter review. And it's a super important election this time. So we help do that, and people thank us when we give it to them. They say, yes, I do need to know who these people are. So these are helpful sheets to hand out. Let's see, community groups, anybody you can. And the next announcement I think we're ready to say is our next program will be October 13th. It's a Monday, which is unusual, but it's a Monday, and we will get to have Speaker of the House, the Washington House, Lori Jenkins. And she happens to be here right now. And we are so happy that this is going to work out. It'll be a great program in talking about the upcoming session, but also what's going on in Washington right now with fighting for democracy.
One more thing is, right now is the time to knock doors. And there are sign-up sheets in the back. We are knocking doors in East Tacoma. We're knocking doors in North Tacoma. We're knocking doors in Lakewood and Stellicum. And we've already knocked thousands of doors. And every door makes a difference, because a lot of people, their mind isn't on these elections, but once you bring to their attention the importance of local elections and how much of a difference they make in our protection from federal overreach. So really, if you can come out with us, even just go with another person to knock doors and then see if you want to try it yourself. I love it myself because I get to meet all kinds of people, and it's just nice to hear. And these are friendly doors. They're not.
And we're finding this week, several of the turfs we're needing drivers. Some of them have long spaces between houses, so always, if you can come and help in any way, it's really helpful.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of those who've already found our little donation buckets around. We have one set aside just for the No Kings 2, if you wanted to donate to that, or also the other buckets are for general fund helping us with Indivisible Tacoma's expenses. So thank you very much for those who've already donated today.
I would just like to read an acknowledgement to the tribal nation. We acknowledge that we are on the stolen lands of the Puyallup Nation who have lived here since time immemorial. We acknowledge that the Puyallup and other Native nations have been the targets of invasion, occupation, and displacement, leading to centuries of trauma. We acknowledge the sovereign rights of the Puyallup and other tribal nations, and we stand in solidarity with their efforts to have these rights honored. We acknowledge that in this moment of increased display of anti-Native sentiment and racism directed toward Black, brown, and immigrant communities, it is imperative that we find common ground to strengthen coalition necessary for the protection of culture, treaty rights, and ultimately for the protection of our lives. Thank you.
In Indivisible Tacoma, we are growing, and we are setting up, or people are standing up new teams and committees, and one of them is just starting, is an immigrant protection team or committee. And we have two people who are leading it. One person, unfortunately, Janice, was set to be on the program tonight, but she fell in an accident on Monday and ended up in the hospital, which is horrible. And so anyway, she's not here tonight, but Janice Gardner, and Kelsey Hilmes are the leads. And Kelsey is a great leader in IT, and she brings so much energy and knowledge and also community connections and also her talent with social media. And she's going to come up and talk briefly. And so Kelsey, are you ready?
Hi, my name is Kelsey, and like Ellen said, we are in the process of standing up an Immigrant Solidarity Action Team here within Indivisible Tacoma. So we've got a sign-up sheet out in the lobby, and I think there may be one over here too, but by the cake, but we will be setting up our first meeting soon, so we hope that if you're interested, you'll come and join us. Before we get to our featured speaker today, we do have a statement that we were sent by La Resistencia, who was not able to make it tonight, so I will be reading that. Thank you to the folks at Indivisible Tacoma for inviting La Resistencia to your forum. We apologize that we were unable to attend today, and we thank the team for reading this statement for us. As you all know, we are in an unprecedented time of fear and rapidly changing conditions. We at La Resistencia have received many questions from the community, groups, and reporters about how conditions at the detention center have gotten worse. We want to clarify that while immigration enforcement is at an unprecedented level, conditions at the detention center have always been inhumane and deplorable. What we are seeing now is both an increased awareness from many in the public who did not have an awareness of the conditions before now, and permission from the federal government for ICE and GEO Group to mistreat people more in a more blatant way than we have ever seen before. Our focus at La Resistencia has always been organizing and supporting people in detention at the Northwest Detention Center. In recent months, we have received increasing reports that people are being limited to little or no recreational yard time, access to mass, and things that can help people's mental health while they are in detention. The food continues to worsen, with a new development in the past months that the meal times are inconsistent, sometimes 2 or 3 hours later than they are scheduled to happen. GEO Group uses solitary confinement as retaliation against people, retaliation for refusing to be transferred, or for collaborating with La Resistencia. Northwest Detention Center is documented to have the longest terms of solitary confinement in the country. We are also in touch with many people that continue to face medical neglect, including Annalise Carina Garcia-Infante, who is not receiving the proper medical help to have a safe and healthy pregnancy. Rogelio Maldonado Rosas, who lost his eyesight due to Geo Group not giving him the pills that he needs for his diabetes. Juan Fidel Bazan, Geo Group denies taking him to the hospital for a necessary surgery, even though he is 72 years old and is in severe pain. We have also been the only organization in Washington that is observing and documenting the conditions of the deportation flights leaving King County Airport. We see firsthand the way that people are transported, shackled by their hands to their waist and shackled at their ankles. Oftentimes, people with limited mobility or who use mobility aids struggle to board the planes since they require the use of stairs. People are not given food or water in their flights, and in the past months, we have found that ICE is using dummy signals to hide their flights from our observation team. There are many ways that you can support La Resistencia's work. We are looking for local volunteers that believe in following directly impacted leadership to support our solidarity days, support our security team, and share our work and calls to action with your networks. We also rely heavily on individual donations for our mutual aid program, in which we send $25 a month to people in detention that need support for calls, food from the commissary, and other supplies that they might not be able to access. Whether you give your time, money, or other forms of support, right now we count on each one of you to strengthen our work in making sure that we do shut down the Northwest Detention Center. If you are interested in donating, please visit our website, laresistencianorthwest.org, or if you would like to volunteer, please contact us at resistenciasolidarity@gmail.com. Thank you, Josefina Morachon, on behalf of La Resistencia. And I'm sure, Ellen and Julie, we could share that contact information with all of you who would like to get involved. All right, so I think that statement, painful to read, but I think it does a really good job setting the stage for why we're here and why it's so important that we focus on protecting our community from this rapidly increasing ICE presence. So with that, I'm very honored to turn this over to our speaker today from the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network. His name is Alex Fair, and he is a rapid response trainer for WAISN. Alex has been involved with WAISN since its beginning about 10 years ago, and he recently was promoted from volunteer to employee. So please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks so much, Kelsey, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm not sure if it was a promotion or a demotion. I'm still working that out. But just a quick, before we get into it, I'm just curious, how many of you have heard of the Washington Immigrant Solidarity Network, or WAISN? A lot of you have, a few of you haven't. Okay, great. I also should give you guys a heads up that while I do trainings for WAISN on pretty much on the regular, I have never given this presentation before, so you guys are a little bit my guinea pigs. So thank you for doing that. So WAISN was formed in 2017, shortly after the Trump administration, Trump's first election win. You guys all remember that the anti-immigrant in the first election was really bad also. Not quite as bad as it is now, but also really bad. So we were formed with the express purpose and the belief was that if we give communities the right tools, they can mount an effective self-defense against this. And we still believe that, and we see it every day. Now, who am I? I'm Alex Fair. That was said already. Thank you, Kelsey. I come to this work for a lot of very personal reasons that honestly I didn't understand myself when I first started. I just knew I was drawn to it, but I didn't know why. And it was actually in giving presentations, specifically presentations to directly impacted community members and having to build trust in various communities that I learned my own truth. So I'm Jewish. I grew up in New Jersey, and I grew up as one of the only Jews in my town. We had a very big high school, about 4,000 kids. I was still meeting other kids on graduation day. It was a unique experience. But when I was around 10 years old, give or take, 10, 11, in that range, my parents, my family had all escaped the Holocaust in Germany. And if it wasn't for the right to asylum in this country, I don't know where we would be right now. So in the age 10, my parents thought it was a great idea. It was important for me to hear from Holocaust survivors because they weren't not going to be around much longer. So I saw about 6 or 7 of them in this short time frame. And I realized something later in life that I didn't realize in the moment. They all kind of had this presentation, and they all were willing to relive this horror in order for it to hopefully not happen again. But they all closed with a very similar message, almost identical, and it wasn't like a coordinated messaging campaign. This was just, their truth was, they closed with something to the effect of, the Holocaust was horrible. Things like that will happen again. It absolutely will. It may be Jews, it may be somebody else, but whoever they're coming for, it's up to you to be standing in the way. And the reason I kind of wanted to introduce myself that way is it makes it, you understand like where I'm coming from and why I do this work. But now I'm putting that on all of you because it's happening again and they're coming for people and it's up to all of you to be standing in the way. What is WAISN? So WAISN is a network of orgs. It's a statewide network. And when I say a network of organizations, that means, so you guys are in Indivisible Tacoma. As a volunteer, work with Seattle Indivisible. And Seattle Indivisible is a member organization of WAISN. So there are small orgs like our Indivisible groups that are members, and there are big orgs like the ACLU of Washington that are members. And what that affords us is the opportunity to really collaboratively work together. And a very concrete example that I often hit the ACLU up for is Know Your Rights cards. I don't know if any of you work in this space, but literally in 2025, if I get a stack of Know Your Rights cards, they last like 40 seconds. They're gone, right? And good, we want to get the information out there. But it's really effective to be able to just hit the ACLU up when we're out, or vice versa, or hit up the Northwest Immigrants' Rights Project. If there's, we have a deal with them, if there's a raid, there will be a lawyer, as part of our rapid response, there will be a lawyer on site within 45 minutes of a big event. So this network has been really powerful and really good, I think, for most of the orgs involved. If that's something you're interested in here in Tacoma Indivisible, let me know. I can get our membership person to talk to you guys. These are the 4 pillars of our deportation defense work. As Kelsey said, my specialty is in rapid response. It's what I organize in, and I can go as deep as anybody you want on that topic. The other ones I'm going to cover, but just know it's not the area where I specifically work. So in addition to the rapid response teams, we have the hotline and the Fair Fight Bond Fund and the accompaniment program. I'll get into more of those in a second. We're going to cover all of them. But together, that's what we consider our deportation defense work at WAISN. Okay? And there's something that you can get involved in the Fair Fight Bond Fund, in accompaniment, and in rapid response. The hotline now, it started back in 2017 as a volunteer-led effort. It is now staffed because we get so many calls. So the hotline, the WAISN hotline is the only statewide hotline that serves immigrants in Washington State. But it doesn't just serve immigrants. They will serve anybody that calls with a need to that hotline. For example, during COVID, the hotline switched from almost overnight from ICE alerts to I need food. And we were able to make that pivot because that's what the community needed, right? The hotline is open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You can text the hotline. You can people send pictures and videos, specifically, if they're trying to identify agents. I think the next slide has the phone number. I'm going to leave it up there because I see some people taking pictures. That's probably the one you want a picture of. If the call comes in, say, at 7 p.m., does that mean we're not going to respond to it because nobody's there to answer the phone? It is monitored 24/7. I'm not saying there's an instantaneous response, but it's not like nobody's going to see it till the next morning. If there's an emergency, somebody's going to see it. Rapid response teams. when the call comes into the hotline that ICE is at a certain location, then what they do is filter it down into a local rapid response team. And that's just a group of volunteers. It's actually WAISN's big ask for Indivisible groups right now, is to join up, form a rapid response team or get involved in that in some way. There is one in your area, so you guys don't need to form one. But when I agreed to come down here, I also said, hey, host me for a training at some point. So keep that in the back of your head. Love to get more of you involved. So when that call comes in, it goes into the hotline. Then it's filtered down to a Signal chat group. That's what the team is, right? My team is a Signal chat group. And says, hey, this is going on here. Can somebody check it out, right? And 1 or 2 people will usually go to check it out at first. If it is ICE, then they're going to let everyone know, and we're going to send backup. If it's not ICE, say it's a park ranger, which actually happened recently, we're going to talk to the park ranger. We're also not just going to leave right away. We're going to hand out Know Your Rights forms. We're going to talk to people in the area. Because often we'll get sent a place, and we're not sure if it happened or not, right? It's over. That's all we know is nothing's going on right now. But we can fill in the gaps often by talking to people. And I found that right now, people want to help or they don't, but you know very quickly. So these are the goals. I'm going to call them the values of the rapid response team. So as I said before, we want to make sure that communities are organized for self-defense. That doesn't mean that nothing bad is ever going to happen. It does mean, hopefully, that nothing bad will happen because we're unprepared. What we do, we document ICE activity, and then we use that, hopefully, in court to help that person being targeted. When we can, we provide support for families, and I can talk a little bit at what that looks like. Often, when somebody gets detained, it might be the breadwinner. They might need financial support. Perhaps a vehicle got impounded. They might need some logistical help just getting around for a little bit. And what can we do, right? We can take up a collection between some community members. What if it's a person that might be going into deportation proceedings? We can mount a deportation defense campaign. We can garner community support. It's basically, think about it like a PR campaign, because we're not on the right side of the law, frankly, but if we can convince a judge that this person's a valuable member of our community, then maybe we can get something done. And uplift the leadership of directly impacted people. You should know that WAISN has always been run by undocumented immigrants and will always be. Rapid response is intense. I want to sell it a little bit because I really do want to get some of you involved, but I don't want you to think, oh, that's the one thing I should do, because it's not for everybody. The situations can be intense, and I've gotten face-to-face with ICE agents almost every year for way too long now. But there are a million other things that you can do to get involved as well. If like that's not quite right for me, maybe accompaniment where it doesn't happen at random times, and you can plan it out might be more people's speed. And it's absolutely just as necessary. So the Fair Fight Bond Fund. This is a bond fund. It is available to anybody who's in immigration detention in America. However, we do preference, we have it set up that way on purpose, by the way, because somebody might get detained and end up in Tacoma, and then you lose track for 1 second, and then all of a sudden they're in Louisiana. So that's why it was kind of set up that way. We do give preference to locals and preference on situation, and we have to have some sort of a preference because we just frankly don't have the money to bond everybody out that's in Tacoma. If we did, it would already have happened. But it's a community-driven vehicle, meaning this group could get together and host a Fair Fight Bond Fund fundraiser. A lot of groups do that. It can be for any amount of money. We're always thankful when it happens. It doesn't have to be like, don't think, well, we're not going to get thousands of dollars, so we don't do it. No. Anything matters. And frankly, the bond fund is often out of money, okay? Because we just use it immediately as soon as there's a need, and there's frankly always a need. Accompaniment. So accompaniment is just showing up with somebody to an appointment, somebody who's afraid to go by themselves, okay? It is a lot more involved than that. There is a whole training on what information you should get ahead of time, what questions you should ask, and what questions, frankly, you shouldn't ask. But this came into being after, frankly, more ICE agents in courtrooms. I know you've all seen recently ICE agents in the immigration courtrooms in Seattle, probably down here too for the bond hearings. No? Yes? Have they been there? You haven't heard? It's been happening in Seattle for the last little bit, but I'm talking about before this recent trend. What they would do would just show up at any Washington State courthouse, not these immigration courts specifically, and just get people as they were going in or out. And I'm not going to talk too much about the non-deportation defense stuff, but there are two bills I think I should cover for understanding where we're at now. We do have a state legislative advocacy arm of WAISN as well. Like I said, I'm not going to get too into it. I just want to cover two bills. So the Courts Open to All Act was passed into law, I think, in 2018 or 2019. Don't quote me on which one of those. But basically what it says is ICE is not allowed to operate in our courts. And we had a really powerful ally at the time of getting that bill passed, who you might have heard of. He was Attorney General at the time, but at the time, Attorney General Ferguson wrote a letter to the legislature, basically, backing this bill, the Courts Open to All Act, and saying straight up, as Attorney General, I cannot guarantee justice in Washington State if people are afraid to go to court. It was really compelling, and it helped a lot of our lawmakers get to the right vote. In addition to that, I want to cover one other bill, just because it's so key to where we are right now, and that's the Keep Washington Working Act. Anybody familiar with that one? Sure, a few, yeah. That's the one that says ICE and our local law enforcement are not allowed to collaborate. Okay, it's a really important one for where we are right now because obviously, I'm sure you've all seen they're targeting the local police, right? ICE is targeting the local police. So how accompaniment works now is it's often to bond hearings right in Tacoma at the detention center, or it's to immigration court, but it could be to anywhere. Okay, if somebody has an appointment anywhere and they call up and you just get an accompaniment by calling the WAISN hotline. So if you know anybody that needs one, just give them that number. And an organization, Jewish Coalition for Immigrant Justice, handles that aspect of it. But the hotline can get them right there. They'll get somebody in touch locally, like I said, that's trained, that knows what to ask and what not to ask, and they'll take them anywhere. So yeah, as I said, right now it's mostly immigration courts. And what some of you have probably seen, the one in Seattle, where they were every day for about a month and a half picking people up. It stopped. We're not really sure why. We have a couple theories. I think the prevailing one, it's dark, but I think it's that Tacoma Detention Center is full. So they don't need the easy ones right now. But the accompaniment program, the Courts Open to All Act, that all came together and came to fruition over time. And this Jewish Coalition for Immigrant Justice, amazing org, they provide trainings and they run the program. And I said you were guys my guinea pigs. I did not realize how short that was. I do want to open it up for questions because I love doing questions, and I know I said something that that I didn't cover well. Yeah, so the question was how many people are being taken by ICE out of King County? And the answer is honestly not, it's pretty much on par with the same thing, with the same exact immigration enforcement activity. It's a little bit higher in some areas, but not a ton as it was under Biden, honestly. We all know it's going to pick up, but we don't know when. We do think it's logistical challenges that are slowing it down. Yeah, so the question was, what do you do when you're dealing with an ICE agent who doesn't care about your rights? Is that correct? We have to advocate for people's rights. I don't think we want to cede that point. You want to make sure that if you're seeing an ICE agent and somebody's rights are being violated, you're recording it, and at the same time you're out clearly articulating what they're doing that's violating their rights. And calmly, not like you're getting in somebody's face, You're just letting them know, I'm videoing you because you're doing this. Yeah, in Washington State, actually everywhere in the country, but in Washington State specifically, if you can see it and you're where you are legally, you can video it. But the question was having trouble understanding the bond fund. So I'll give you an example of how it would work. So say a friend of ours was picked up and ended up in Tacoma Detention Center. And say they're waiting there and they said, you don't have a court case in 6 months, but you have a bond hearing next week. And their bond is usually $15,000, $20,000. Yeah, no matter, with no actual crimes, right? So it's usually $15,000 or $20,000. That's on purpose, right? They want to make it hard for people to bond out. Part of the reason the bond fund is often out of money is because we do liberally give it out, and we're not checking that person's ability to pay us back. That is on purpose. So some of them just disappear. Sometimes you get to use the money multiple times, sometimes you don't. But does that make sense? So you're literally just bonding somebody out. If they go back and fulfill their court case, that money's returned, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But we don't worry about whether or not they do or not. Our goal is to get them out of detention.
Bail and then a bond, the bond thing. Is that an option for them or is it full cash?
They don't do that.
Is there a legal argument with that you know of? I mean,
My understanding of how...
racist, isn't it in itself?
Well, all right, so that's through a bail bondsman. That's not something offered by the state or by the city or by the federal government. It's not offered by any government agency. That's just an individual that wants to make money. So what they do, the bail bondsman, it's because somebody puts up the full bail. If the bail is $10,000, somebody put up $10,000 for that guy to get out. So maybe they put up 10% to the bail bondsman as like a safety net, but then, or as that's going to be the guy's profit, right? And then he pays the bond. But if they disappear, he loses 90%. Well, he's probably not going to do that on somebody that might either get deported or might choose to self-deport, right? It's just a private individual. It's a private business. Well, that's going to be longer than the whole presentation. The question was, what's the biggest driver of the anti-immigrant sentiment? Racism? I mean, to put it bluntly, you know. Good question. So the question was, have I noticed differences between the ICE agents now and in prior years? And I guess they wear masks now. They didn't always do that. Some of them did back in the day, but now they seem to all wear masks. But no, honestly, my interactions have been the same, honestly. They've kind of always been that way. The question was, how are they getting away with violating people's rights, basically? So they don't always need a warrant to pick somebody up. If it's in a public location, they don't need anything. They need what's called reasonable suspicion that that person is here illegally, and then they can pick them up. In fact, I'm not sure they need that anymore because of a recent Supreme Court ruling. But to your point of like, how are they getting away with it? We're not ceding that they are getting away with it. Of course, there's some people, frankly, that are getting sent all over the world into these foreign prisons, and there's no record, and it's going to be very, very messy to try to undo it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But I think, like, for example, when they started using that Alien Enemies Act and sending people to El Salvador, there was a letter also that was instructions to ICE agents that if they were going to arrest somebody under that they also don't need a search warrant to enter their house, don't need anything signed by a judge, can just go and do it. And we were not willing to cede that. So our strategy was going to be, if we found out they were in somebody's house without a warrant, we're making sure we're videoing it and documenting the hell out of it and getting that to that person's attorney. I think it's up to us, frankly. I think that's the question. It's up to all of us to not cede that point, right? We do have a system. It does have checks. It does have, we all have rights, and we don't want to cede any of that. I hope that makes sense. Are they getting away with it? Yeah, because they've got both houses of Congress, the presidency. They've got some levers of power, you know?
And the Supreme Court.
Yeah. So the question was about California's law that allows, that makes it mandatory that ICE agents don't wear masks, or any law enforcement, I believe, is their law, right? Sorry, I haven't read their law, but I know the gist of it. I don't think ICE will follow it, to be totally blunt. I think one person from ICE has already said we won't follow it. I've been looking at things to back at the state level here, and really, I know that there is stuff here, but that specific law about the mask, I don't think they would follow it here. So I really haven't been pushing it. You know, I think it will spread because, frankly, we all just copy each other, right? The Keep Washington Working Act and the Courts of Law were both copied. So that's what we do. But the question is it effective? And I don't think so.
I thought it wasn't going to be in effect till January. It's not.
It's not going to be in effect till January 1st.
Okay, so.
Well, yeah, but you know what? ICE is still going to be around in January. But no, I just think they're not going to follow it.
For now, that.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up to that?
Yeah, of course.
If they're not following our laws that we create, where we demand that they take off their mask, can our police arrest them?
Yes, and in fact, in Philadelphia, the DA said he was going to prosecute ICE agents. And honestly, I think that needs to happen. Not just arrested, by the way, like prosecuted, because how else are we going to have accountability? How else is this going to stop? Yeah, the question was, where's ICE most and how are they getting people? Is that a good summary?
Yes, specifically in Washington.
Yeah. So most of the ICE arrests are in King County, but there's a lot out in eastern Washington as well. And there have been a handful of workplace raids, actually just 2 in Washington State, so that's not really mainly where they're getting people. They're mainly getting people, pulling people over in their car. That's the number one way people are getting detained in Washington State. Of course, they're also going to people's houses, people's jobs, all of that. But the number one way is in cars. And you should know this, by the way. They can't really pull you over. They're doing it, but the only thing they're allowed to pull you over for is immigration-related crime. And how can they know if you're driving by, right? Go ahead.
They're basically looking for people who look Hispanic.
Yes, and now our Supreme Court said that's totally legit. So the question is about your lovely sheriff, and I won't try to summarize all of it, but basically, like, what do we know about him, and what can we do about him? Was that kind of the gist? As far as I know, there's not an active WAISN campaign on him, but there is an active WAISN campaign on still implementation of Keep Washington Working, because there are some people that work at various organizations across the state that just don't know that law even happened, and it's just business as usual. They're not even necessarily somebody that's, oh, I want to give ICE this. They're just like, it's just business as usual. ICE gets this, right? So we're still trying to find all the people that are kind of good people, would follow the law, just don't know about it. And then when you've got this guy who's literally like saying every other day that he's not going to follow it, essentially, but we don't have any hard evidence of anything he's done, it's kind of tough. But I know there's a lot of local campaigns, and I know about all the FOIA requests as well. In fact, I think I know someone that has put in a ton of the FOIA requests. But honestly, I think just, he's an elected official, right? Replace him. That's my advice. Well, yeah. I mean, that's the system, though. If we don't have him actually doing anything, he could say whatever he wants. I mean, right? Yeah. Sorry, the question was, is WAISN doing anything around students and schools? If any of you don't know, it was an ICE policy to not enter what they called sensitive locations. That was schools, places of worship, and hospitals. And that's all gone. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we've been doing outreach to schools. I've got a training next week. I've done a number of them. It has to kind of be at the invitation of a teacher, and it's usually not an official school event. It's sort of like a group of teachers that get together and they want to learn some stuff so they can stick up for the rights of their students. Yeah, we're very supportive of that. We haven't been able to do the level of outreach that I think I personally would like, because I still, there's always teachers that I talk to that there's just not enough of us, honestly, to be blunt. Yeah, the question is, are they focusing on adults? And the answer is they're focusing on whoever they can grab that's easiest. They're not really looking, I know that the rhetoric is about criminals. They're not really doing any of that. I'm not saying they're not going to get any criminals. They're getting everybody they can find. But it's not focused on anybody. It's just literally that's why the courthouses were such a big target. But those people are literally in the middle of our process, right? Or they wouldn't have a court date. And they're willing to just take them and boot them out. So the question is, are we keeping stats? WAISN's trying to keep stats on everything. But we know our information is incomplete, and we don't trust ICE's information. So ICE is putting out a lot of numbers, but I haven't referenced them for obvious reasons. Yeah.
So what I think I heard you say is that there effectively is no due process related to picking people up anymore. Is that right?
No, I would say that the Trump administration is trying to completely get rid of due process, as we saw with the Alien Enemies Act invocation. Is there some due process? There's some. Is there less than there was? Yes, there's less.
What's the due process that is left?
So if somebody gets picked up and they end up in Tacoma Detention Center, they will get a day in court unless they meet some of the criteria for some of these cases that Trump was using to get around that. For example, if you've been here less than 2 years, there was this system that was actually put in place under Obama called expedited removal. And the intention was never to use it anywhere except at the border. And it was literally, if somebody is getting turned around, you don't have to have a court case, right? But now they were using that exact program all across America. And if somebody had been here less than 2 years, there are plenty of people who already got deported to countries, many of them not from the country that they were from, without any due process. But if you don't fall into some of these categories and you're just an average person and you get picked up, yeah, you're going to get your bond hearing, you're going to get your court case.
But for being picked up, there's no.
It's getting worse and worse, and part of that is by design. They've actually lowered this year, halved, in fact, the amount of training an ICE agent gets before they put him out in public. Does anyone know how much training they get? How many? We have a guess of 2 weeks. That's pretty good. No, it's actually 6 weeks, but also 6 weeks, and then you're just graduated. Doesn't seem like a lot to me. One first.
Well, mine was just more, you said churches and hospitals and schools.
Yes.
So how are they doing that? If you're going to a hospital, somebody's giving you access to go and look for people? I'm confused. How are you doing that?
I have not heard of a hospital case yet, to be honest with you, and I don't know how it'll work out, because if you've ever been in a hospital, I can never find where I'm going. But as far as schools, there have been some reports of people showing up at schools, not in Washington State yet, and I'm saying reports because I don't necessarily know if it was ICE. It could have been some, you've heard about the people who play dress up and go scare people, yeah. But same thing with houses of worship. I haven't heard of it happening in Washington State. Yeah, houses of worship, I haven't heard it happening, but I know it will. They didn't change that rule just to not do anything, So the question is how long before they get rid of due process entirely, and I also going to put the answer back on all of us, frankly. That's up to all of us to not let that go. That's the moment we're in right now, right?
Don't they have different rules to how you talk about churches? Churches are private property, so don't they have different rules going on private property as opposed to schools, which are public?
Churches are private property, but most houses of worship are open to everybody, and that means they can just walk in. Because they're anyone. They're just anyone, right? If anybody can walk in, they can walk in. So the question was about them not identifying themselves. Is that part of their training or something? And the answer is, I believe so. I haven't been through ICE training personally. I believe that their training involves telling people to not show ID. In addition, I think to be intimidating. The whole reason, there's a lot of talk about, do they have a warrant, do they not have a warrant? Good, you guys have had some training and some exposure to that. The whole reason those are going around is because they use these administrative warrants, which are not signed by a judge and give them no extra authority, to try to intimidate people by saying, this is a warrant, you have to let me in. and yet you don't, because it's not a warrant.
And I think the follow-up to that was about the rising risk of imposters, people who are dressing up and basically say that, here I am,
It's a risk. I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth in the rapid response team groups about whether or not if somebody is getting picked up and nobody shows ID, should we call the cops? And we don't have a yes yet in my team, but some teams do. How do we get involved, and what's the biggest need? The biggest need right now is rapid responders. We're getting a lot of calls. A lot of them are fake, but we got to investigate all of them. And when I say fake, by the way, I don't mean anybody's doing that to us on purpose. I just mean people are on edge for kind of obvious reasons. So there's rapid response. There are online trainings. I sent you a bunch of those links to Kelsey, which I'm sure will get distributed. There's also in-person trainings. If you guys wanted to get together and host me for a training, I would come down here and do a 2-hour training where by the time you left, you would know what to do if you were in that situation. In addition to that, there's the accompaniment programs. Like I said, the rapid response thing, you don't know when it's going to happen. It's not for everyone. The accompaniment is a little bit, well, you can schedule it. It can also be intense. I've talked to people that have accompanied to somebody that was detained, and it's intense. If neither of those are your cup of tea, do a fundraiser for the Fair Fight Bond Fund. And you could do that really simply. Like put a price tag on each one of those pieces of cake, and there you have a fundraiser. As far as the rapid response, I think the in-person training is better, but if the time frame works for you to take one online, and you'll get connected to the local team. So the question is, have I heard anything about shortage of workers, particularly farm workers in central Washington? And the answer is no, I haven't heard a shortage of workers. Yeah, not yet. You mean if they have somebody that they think might be undocumented and they provide a driver's license or whatever? Okay. So the question was is ICE still gonna take somebody if they target someone and then they show documentation to prove that they're here legally? And the answer is maybe. Probably not, honestly, probably not, because they don't want to do any extra paperwork, and that person will get released fairly quickly anyway. But I've seen them take people when they weren't 100% sure, because it's not like anyone's going to volunteer information in front of them. But they can take them and then figure it out later. Yeah, go for it.
Would you, across the street from my house, there's some construction going on. Almost everybody across the street is speaking Spanish to each other. And I'm wondering, I'm friendly to them. Should I advise them to carry whatever papers they have with them when they go out of the house?
I'm not gonna say that, but what I will say is there is guidance put out by Northwest Immigrant Rights Project for people, and they are recommending that. Yeah, I know. We're living in some dark times, everybody. But we got each other. So the question was, who are ICE agents, right? Basically, honestly, it's going to be everybody very soon because they're paying a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of ex-local police are going to end up in ICE. Are they now? Not really, but I think they will. I mean, they're advertising in Seattle, where I live, specifically. Are you not happy being at the Seattle Police Force? Come over to ICE. We're offering an extra $50,000, right, as a bonus. So it's going to be everybody. It's not quite everybody yet. I know I didn't quite answer the demographics, but 30, white, male, that's the general, that's most of them. Big, with a mask on. Because I don't really, look to hang out with ICE agents, but I'm going to share with you a story from a close friend of mine because I do think it is important to remember that remember to see the humanity, even in ICE agents when they're not seeing other people's humanity. A good friend of mine, undocumented woman, her mom went back to Mexico by choice, but she hadn't seen her in like 20 years, and was down at the border to meet her for like a minute, but like at the border. And there was an ICE agent patrolling nearby, and the ICE agent basically turned their back and was like, you guys can have a little visit. So it's important to remember the humanity, everybody. So the question was, now that Keep Washington Working is law, how do the cops feel about it, and do we find they want to work with ICE? And it's obviously going to be different from each police officer to each police officer. And I can speak pretty much only to like the Seattle Police Department. The Seattle Police Department's pretty MAGA in general. You know, they're pretty. It's probably like 80% people voted for Trump. I don't know what anybody voted, but that's my impression. I know 6 of them were at January 6th at the Capitol, and they still work there. And I think that they would help ICE, but I think the way to look at it is not. That is a law. If they violate the law, they can be prosecuted. I'm not saying it's happened. I'm saying that we have to force them to follow the law, right?
One more question?
What's that?
One more question?
Okay. We have to force them to follow the law. And we would do that by meetings with like the chief of police, find out if it's coming from the top or if it's coming from the bottom. With your sheriff, obviously you know it's coming from him, right? But he hasn't done it, he's just talked about it.
Can't force our police department.
What's that?
The feds can't, or anyone can't force our police department.
It's literally against the law, so no, they can't. Yeah, that's a really good question. The question was when you respond to a rapid response, we had an incident on my team, and has somebody gotten hurt or whatever? The answer is no, but I'm very clear with people that I think there's some risk in what we're doing. I think there's risk in an agent getting over the top. I also think there's risk in being retaliation later on, like getting arrested for something entirely unrelated. It hasn't happened, but I want to be straight with people. Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you again for having me. And I will be in touch about doing trainings and stuff with you guys. I just want to say again, thanks so much. We need everyone, all the help we can get right now, y'all.
Thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So informative. We want to make sure that everyone has one of the upcoming events sheets so you can see what's happening, and always, be sure to mark on your calendar October 13th, Monday, and House Speaker Lori Jenkins will be here to speak about how Washington how to protect Washingtonians, and that fits right in with tonight's program. And she'll also tell a little bit about the upcoming session, but protecting Washingtonians and, Trump-proofing our local area, all of that's important. We thank you so much for coming, and we have cake and snacks over there, so please. We have donation buckets. We had an announcement earlier. We have donation buckets in the back and here, and please enjoy visiting with each other and eating cake. Thanks.